Can people see you right there? I don't even know if they can see you. I think they can just see your back. Okay, I think all they can see is your back. Okay, all right. Welcome to HortTube. My name is John Putnam. This is the Sunday garden question and answer video that I do on Sundays. You can ask questions down below this video, but there's going to be a skipped week because next Sunday I'm going to do Subscriber Sunday, which I haven't done in a long time. This is something I did on the channel for a couple of years, where people can send photos of things in your yard that you're proud of. You can send them to this email address. It's horttube@gmail.com. It's right there. Send me a photo, a big photo. Okay, don't shrink them down. Some folks will put like 10. When I've done this in the past, put like 10 photos in an email, and then they get downsized to a postage stamp. People want to see it on a television, so you better pick one great photo or two and send them to that email address. If you need to put one in one email and one in another, that's fine. And then next weekend I'll do Subscriber Sunday. I'm just going to let it roll with music, let all your great photos speak for themselves with music down at the bottom. If there are some standouts in the group, maybe I'll put those into a separate video and talk over them and make some commentary on them, just point out the plants that are in the photo, that kind of thing. So we'll see how this goes. I haven't done one of these in a while, just from an editing standpoint. It does take a while to, because I do my own editing. I get that question a lot too. Just from an editing standpoint and all the things I have going on, that's the reason I haven't done them in a while. But I'm looking forward to your photos. Can't wait to see them. Send away. Again, ask questions down below this video, but it's going to be 2 weeks before I do another question and answer. So keep that in mind. If it's an imminent question, you might want to Google it or look back through my videos or something like that if you have something that's pressing. But if you don't mind waiting for 2 weeks, ask the question down below and I'll pick from them then. Upcoming videos, I think this will be 7 consecutive days with a video when you see this one. I expect that to go on for a long time. I actually shot 5 additional videos that you guys have not seen in Ram's beautiful landscape down in Athens, Georgia. I also shot a video with Michael Durr that may be divided into 2 videos and a video with Dr. Armitage. So that's it, 7 or 8 videos right there. I've shot a video on wood chips, just how I use them, the benefits of them, how it improved the soil, that kind of thing. I've shot 2 additional annual videos that you will not have seen. You'll see 1 annual installation plus the vegetable garden. There's 2 more videos that have already been shot for that. I've got a shade perennial planting going in and a sun perennial planting video going in. And I found another tour video. So I could just go on and on and on. I found a beautiful landscape that I've admired for a long time, and the person was finally outside. So that's going to be filmed this week as well. So again, really a lot going on here. Oh, and I got the plants. If you've been following along with that landscape job and wondering if I'm ever going to finish it, the one that I've done 3 parts for, I got the plants the other day for that. So the next 2 pieces of that project are going in, and then there's going to be a final mulching job as well, and a walkthrough of that entire landscape project. So crazy amount. Anyway, so let's get to some questions. I know that's what you guys are here for. Somebody asked just a general question about spring and summer pruning limbs here and there that need to be pruned off. That's another set of videos that will definitely be shot in the next couple of weeks. You'll see some pruning videos. The things that have finished flowering in this landscape that I need a nip or tuck there, here or there, you guys will see that, including pruning a limb or 2 out of a tree here or there as well. So that's coming up. Somebody asked me if I worry about snakes or poisonous insects in the landscape. At the old house, I had copperheads at the old house. My nursery had all kinds of snakes. I had some yellow-bellied water snakes there, and those are good snake-eating snakes, and so that was like the only snake I had there. But I had copperheads at the old house. Holly actually jumped out of my pickup one day. We came home for lunch from the nursery. She jumped out of the pickup, and there were 2 copperheads on my sidewalk, and she walked right over the top of them, and they didn't, I think they were engaged in each other's presence. But she just walked right past them. But this house, there are really not any snakes in this neighborhood. This is an old neighborhood, and the people have, I think, slaughtered all the snakes over the years. It's kind of sad for me. I actually kind of like snakes. It is our snake situation here in North Carolina, and I'm sure it's maybe similar in other areas, is way out of balance. We have way too many copperheads. I think what's happened with copperheads, and copperheads were more of a rare snake when I was a kid, and have become almost the predominant snake in the state. And I think what happened was it's a very well camouflaged snake. They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful, beautiful snakes. But they're so well camouflaged. I think we live in a world where a lot of people kill every snake they see. And if you kill every snake you see, what is left is the best camouflaged snake. And a lot of those snakes that you could see, those black snakes, especially the black, king snakes, eastern king snake, they eat copperheads and other snakes. And so, what we've seen is we've killed off some of the predators for copperheads. And again, the best camouflage snake has survived. And so there is a big overpopulation of copperheads. Do I worry about them? No. I go about my business. Well, here again, I don't have them, but at the old house, I went about my business. I'm not going to, I just don't live my life thinking about the shoulda, coulda, what might happen. I really, really try to practice that. Will I see us, will I be doing a landscape job somewhere or be somewhere someday where I'll have a close call with a poisonous snake or spider or whatever? Of course. I can't, I'm just a person who has decided to not live my life in fear of what might be. And so I have ground covers, and I did it at the old house too. I had ground covers and, I had places for snakes to hide. Now you don't want stacks of, if you have collections of things, like, a piece of plyboard laying on the ground or stacks of bricks and things like that, and you're in a snaky area, you can probably eliminate those piles and help somewhat. Places to go under buildings and things like that, but you're never going to eliminate risk, and I don't let that suck any of my life away. So that's the answer to the question. I don't worry about them. Okay, somebody asked a good question. They have pentas. They're in Florida, and their annual pentas tend to burn out in the summer from the heat. I get that on my zinnias and my cosmos. Some of my annual things I do from seed. By August, they're a bit tired, and they wanted to know what to underplant them with. Any kind of coneflower, black-eyed Susans. There's a lot of things that are a little slower to establish during the summertime that can take that space over. I use lantana here. I'm not going to recommend that to you in Florida because it could be an invasive. It is an invasive plant in Florida where our winters control lantana here. But lantana is a great choice for that. I've already done that out front. I've got lantana coming back from last year. It takes them a long time to really get going here. My zinnias are just going to be over top of them looking fantastic. As soon as they look weak, passed by, they're coming out of the ground, and I got a lantana bed underneath it. So there's several places in this landscape. I think I pointed out the other day, my peonies have black-eyed Susans planted in them. So the peonies, I'll keep the foliage on them. They die back slowly. Sometime by midsummer, typically they're starting to fade out, and that's when my black-eyed Susans will be in full effect over there. So I do like doing that. The shorter turn annuals, having something underneath them. Somebody said something about Holly merch. She's laying down here. You guys can't see her. Holly does need merch. That was a good call. I need to make a shirt for Holly. That dog, there's like 1,200 videos on the channel. I don't know how many there are, but maybe 1,200. And I bet she's been in 600 of them. And I don't stage it. The beginning of this video, obviously, I staged where you could see her back. But all of the old videos, the original 100 videos on this channel were done at my nursery originally. And she's walking around behind me the whole time in all of those too. So this is not new. I don't know how she knows. She sees me getting the camera ready, and she's already at the back door ready to run out so she can make her appearances in these videos. Okay, somebody has their mulch compacting every year, wanted to know if they should break it up some to get some air in it. And it comes back from me talking about aerobic versus anaerobic soil last week. If you find that your mulch is compacting like that, and I see it many times, I think maybe you're using too much each time. And I know it's a lot of work to ask, but we're all better off doing 2 rounds of 2 inches of hardwood mulch instead of 1 round of 4 inches of hardwood mulch. I like to see that bark breaking down some. I like to see the microbes actually working on it. I actually want to see it thin a little bit before I add my next application. So I think that comes from over mulching sometimes. It builds that crust on the top, and that's a place where water is going to be harder. If you get a heavy rain, if I get a heavy rain in this landscape, water's going right in the ground. Every bit of this place, the soil will just eat water. I mean, it just can go right down through it easy. If you have that kind of hard crust on your mulch, you're probably going to end up with some runoff and not be able to capture all that water. And, summer rains we get heavy summer rains here, but they're inconsistent. And so I want to make sure I capture as much of that water as possible. So thin layers of mulch each time is something I would recommend. Let's see. Somebody has their sugar maple, had 2 sugar maples that were, the new leaves were eaten by deer. One is already fleshing back out. The other is not. How long, I would wait a few weeks. I think you'll be amazed how that maple's able to have, there's dormant buds along those stems that will come out. Doesn't surprise me that one would come out before the other. The one may have rooted in more already, may have just been less damage was done to it when it was originally planted. It may have just been ahead in a lot of different ways to the other one, but I would give it a few more weeks. I think it will probably come out just fine. Somebody has a honeysuckle in a container that they're trying to put around a door or something, and leaves are dropping off of it. When they're putting a vine like a honeysuckle would be difficult in a container. There's a Confederate jasmine or a star jasmine in a container that must be 40 feet long at a shopping center near me. It's full bloom yesterday. And I'm thinking, they must be watering that container a lot. So vines are going to be super, super aggressive in the spring. They have to beat everything to the light. And so your vine is trying to not only put on all that growth and get up to the sunlight, but it's also trying to put on flowers. It's doing a lot very quickly in the early spring. Vines have to be in a hurry. You'll see clematis come out of the ground just like, as fast as it can possibly grow, because it's all trying to beat the light and beat the trees from blocking them out. So that's why they get going. That's why you see things like Virginia creeper, and other things. They just explode right now. That's what vines have to do, is get on top of the canopy. That's why the thing's losing leaves, though. Also, if it's not getting an adequate amount of water or nutrients, maybe it needs fertilizer, but not over fertilizing. Maybe it needs fresh soil in the pot, but it will lose leaves down at the bottom to make sure it gets up to the sunlight. That's likely what's going on. Somebody asked this is always a funny one. You're in a retail setting, this would be a funny question to me. I wouldn't laugh at the person, but behind, in the back of my mind, I might laugh a little bit, because they wanted a plant for wet feet that flowers, that has year-round interest. That's how we always get questions in a retail setting. It's like, I want the perfect plant. And I would, frequently in the back of my mind go, well, you find it, you let me know, because I'm ready for the, the year-round interest plant that flowers that will grow in wet feet. It's just kind of a funny thought in my mind from doing retail all those years. Everybody is always looking for that perfect plant, and unfortunately, it's perfect plants that you need. Lots and lots of different things, to make up that perfect garden. Really, somebody commented underneath that Virginia Sweet Spire was a great choice, and I think Virginia Sweet Spire is a good choice. It will lose its leaves in the dead of winter, but it has beautiful fall color and it holds the leaves. Up until Christmas time. So it's not a long time that it doesn't have leaves, but that's a native you can use. Clethra will probably work, but regardless, you're going to need to mound them up a little bit if you think it's staying wet. If I was to say, hey, how would I go about starting a garden? Identifying who you are as a gardener. I've said that before, whether you want something super detailed like this or you just want super low maintenance. Number 2 on the list is probably drainage for me. Before a plant goes in the ground, before a bed is laid out, before anything, I'm probably going to try to figure out how to fix drainage problems. And I know that's super difficult because houses have been built so close together, and we have these areas between houses that are less than 10 feet wide where there's water running off 2 houses into the middle, and then it's diverted through someone's backyard. And so I know this is difficult, but before I if I was going to ever pay anyone to do anything as well, it would be drainage. Fixing drainage issues is one of the, it's one of the keys. I would not want to be on a lot that was steadily wet and I was trying to figure that out, or a corner of a lot that was always wet. I'd either have turf there, or I would have some sort of underground drain, or put in some sort of rain garden that can capture some of that in between rains and get it into the ground. But solving that, sweet spire is a good choice. A lot of native plants will work for that. I don't know if you're going to find something, unfortunately, with year-round interest, because of a lot of our leafy evergreens and definitely conifers don't like to necessarily stay wet in the winter time. They like to be, well drained in the winter, whereas deciduous plants that go to sleep in the winter, are more likely to be adaptable to wet spaces because they're not trying to grow while the ground's wet. That was a lot of words. How do I know when to add more soil in my potato bags? I let them, typically will grow about 6 inches, and then I'll put about 2 or 3 inches of compost underneath them. I want them tall enough that I'm not covering them completely when I add soil to the potato bag. I think I may have one more round over there where I'll put a couple more inches in those bags, and then that'll be done. Let's see, somebody, I think I've done this one before. Somebody has 2 shrubs in a single container. So they bought a container plant, a container shrub of some kind. It's got 2 growing together. I don't think it's high risk taking them apart. I mean, you're gonna kill one. I'm positive you're gonna kill one of the 2, and now you have a smaller plant. But I would prefer that nurseries were just sticking one individual cutting. But there is a lot of that, putting 3 cuttings in a container to make them finish faster because they're competing with one another in that container. I would prefer to have one in the container, but again, there's a lot of that going on. I do think at some point in the future, one of the 2 or 3 in that container is going to be killed by the other 1 or 2. But it is a thing I see now, but I wouldn't try to divide them. So somebody got some radiant Sibylla planted in the fall and they're thin right now. Wanted to know about how to fix that. You can give those a light haircut now. They don't bloom until the middle of summer. So a light haircut on any Abelia right now would be fine. You're starting to run out of time if you want to see a good amount of flowers this summer though. So I would get on that pretty quickly, but just literally a light haircut across the top of it will encourage growth from the center. Okay, somebody asked me, so I've talked about using fish emulsion on my seedlings that I do in the house, and kind of what's my strategy on using. I use half rate on any fertilizer. So whatever the fish emulsion bottle says, I cut that in half, mix it with the water. As soon as my seedlings emerge and have the first true leaves on them, they start to get a little bit of fish emulsion added in the water when I'm watering them. Don't have to water them a whole lot right when they've germinated. So, this may only be about 2 times that are getting hit with fish emulsion. And then they're coming out in the sun, and then almost every watering, I'm doing a small amount of fish emulsion on them, just to, it's a very small amount of fertilizer. And then once something goes in the ground, whether this is my annuals, like this lobelia that I just planted in front of these, this is Brigadoon St. John's wort. That was another question that's coming up, this yellow. So that yellow plant you're seeing is a ground cover St. John's wort. There's some lobelia that I just planted in front of that I did from Seedlings. So they would have been maybe fish emulsion twice before they came outside, and then, which was a very small amount, and then maybe hit 2 or 3 more times since they've been out here. And then this area had a granular application of plant tone applied to it a couple months ago. And I'll hit these annuals at least one more time here, probably around late May with plant tone again. And that's it. The compost and everything else is doing the rest of it. So it's a very small amount of half application fertilizers. There's several half applications of fertilizers, maybe 5 times with the fish emulsion and 2 times with the plant tone. It's not a lot of fertilizer, but there is several times. Okay. Let's see, somebody asked about a good bagged compost in the box stores. I really don't know. If you want to comment down below and help this person, if you're in the West Coast and you bought something that's you think is a good compost, or compost and bark blend, planting soil of some kind, not with a fertilizer in it. Please don't start recommending things with fertilizers in them. I couldn't be any more opposed to, no. let me lower that. I do not like bagged products that have fertilizer in them. Unfortunately, half of the things in the box stores have fertilizer in them already because they're synthetic. Number one, they're synthetic fertilizers that I don't want to use to push these plants. And number two, I don't know how long that bag sat around and all that fertilizer is now available, and could I actually burn my plants with it? And number three, what would be number three? It may not be the right time of year to actually be fertilizing them. So why would I buy a fertilizer with a bagged product with fertilizer in it in November? It's not a good time to be fertilizing it. Weird. I like them separate. But if you know a product that has just a compost, it's a good quality product, because each of the box stores in the different regions buy from different manufacturers. So if you've got something you really like from one of them, link it down. Talk about it down below. Okay, hopefully that'll be helpful. Somebody asked for a video on moving dahlias. I'll do that pretty soon. There are a couple over there that I probably want to dig up and move around. I'll include it in a video of some sort upcoming. Somebody asked about converting their plastic edging to natural edging, meaning trench edging, like I do. You just pull the plastic out and then either follow that line or make a new line and do the trench edging like I've shown. I think I've got a just specific edging video on the channel that you can search for. If you go to my main page, HortTube with Jim Putnam on YouTube, you can go to when you hit the video, you can search. There's a search function on the main page that you can search for old videos. But if you type in edging, it probably shows up in several different videos or video titles that I've shown. So hope that will help. Let's see. Somebody's got some lavender they bought in Zebulon, North Carolina, which is close to me. Zebulon. I grew up right near it. And the lavender they bought is supposed to be a perennial, but it hasn't been. Here in the Southeast, we can't grow. All lavender is not equal here in the Southeast. We have humidity, hot, humid summers, and some of them don't like it. Some of the Spanish lavenders do okay. They handle the heat better than others, but not the humidity. But there's a lavender called Phenomenal, if you can find it. It's just absolutely fantastic lavender for our area, and it's spelled just like that, Phenomenal. That's a good choice if you can find that one, and it's pretty reliable here in the Southeast. Somebody asked me if I do sunflowers in the landscape. I have grown sunflowers out here the last couple of years. I actually prefer our native sunflowers, so like Helianthus, and so I've got Helianthus, Eastern native Helianthus out here. I've got a dwarf one that I got from Buddy Lee out here, and now I have a Western Helianthus that's about to go in. It's the Western native Helianthus. It's not native to my area, but native to the U.S., about to go in. So I prefer our native sunflowers and Mexican sunflowers like Tithonia. I've got some Tithonia that's gone in the ground as well, as opposed to single stalk sunflowers, which are fun to grow. They're definitely fun to grow, and they're fun. The whole event of it forming is fantastic. I'll have a few come up from seed out here because I feed the birds and because I've done some out here in the past. So, and I just let them grow wherever they grow when they come back, and they're fun to watch. But like I say, I prefer our native sunflowers overall. Okay, somebody asked about thinning limbs on a Japanese maple. So they used to having weeping ones, and they pruned some of the interior limbs to thin them out some, which is a good idea on pretty much any tree. Now they've got an upright one, wondered if they should do the same. Any branches that are going to obviously cross one another at some point. And I'll show in my at least one of the pruning videos coming up will have some tree thinning that I have to do. So that'll be in that. Somebody has an incredible hydrangea that's leaning one way, wanted to know if they should dig it up and put it straight. That's completely up to you. They're pretty hardy, so if you want to do that, you can, or you can do a little pruning on it, after it flowers and force some growth to the other side. I look at, I've got a broken gold foliage oak leaf hydrangea over here, and something broke half of it off, and now it's leaning one direction. I look at it as an opportunity. It's going to be super interesting like that, and I can put something else around it, put something on the other side of it. So there may be that opportunity as well. It's one of the things, I got a lot of videos on this channel for perfect little meatball plants, perfect little meatball plants. And I've got a few perfect little meatball plants out here, some azaleas and some abelia and a few other things. I'm actually kind of annoyed with meatball plants. There is a place for them in the landscape, but not so many of them. I don't need the hydrangea to be a perfect meatball. I don't need everything to be a perfect meatball. I'd actually like to have plants with character combined with a few meatballs and not have everything be a meatball, if that makes any sense. And I think that they go together nicely because the meatballs are good for, you know, just kind of being year round, you know, something never changes. And then the plants with character, you know, just let them have character. That's what how I think about that. Somebody asked me about when their Loropetalum would reach full size. No plant will ever reach full size. There is no such thing. But when we're looking at a tag, I definitely want to point out that a tag means maintainable at. And I've said this many times now, I wish the entire industry would change to maintainable at. So when you see a tag that says Loropetalum variety that gets 4 to 6 feet, it should say maintainable at 4 to 6 feet because it's going to get 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, 15 feet. There's nothing inside that plant going, hey, time to stop growing. Some plants were, you know, dwarf versions of plants just means slower growing typically. Or weeping versions of plants will typically stay smaller, but heck, they'll weep right down to the ground. So just keep in mind when you're looking at a tag, it's maintainable at. Now, how much time does it take a plant that you purchase to get to maintainable at size? That could be, it depends on the size you bought it at. I mean, if you bought, you know, a 3-gallon plant, I would say typically a 3-gallon plant in decent planted situation, 3 or 4 years probably. It would maybe 5 to reach its maintainable at height. Then it's going to blow through that. So you'll have to do some pruning. You'll have to do some pruning on it. But like I say, I would like to see everybody change to that because there is no off switch. Somebody has transplanted a camellia and cut it back, and it's not doing anything yet. It will take a long time for a camellia to recover. They did say in their message they were watering, or in their question they were watering it every day. It's the reason I picked this. Be careful watering a plant that's not actually putting on any growth. Make sure you dig down below it. Make sure you're checking to see if that soil's actually moist. If it's moist, there's no reason to water that plant. Until that plant starts growing again and starts actually using water, be super, super careful with the water. When you transplant it, you definitely want to water it in well and monitor it. But a plant that you've taken growth off the top that's not actively growing is going to use far less water. So check it before you water it, but it will take a while. Somebody asked me if I had a video on the channel for a Philadelphus or mock orange. I'm about to put one up pretty soon for a new variety that I have planted along the driveway. I haven't shown you guys yet. I think it's called Pearls of Perfection. It's a double flowering, fragrant one that's kind of remontant. It will continue to bloom during the summer, not just that one shot here in the spring. Super excited about that plant. But the one I planted last year was about 6 inches tall. It's now stretched out to about 24 and it's got lots of flowers coming on it. So I'm going to shoot that video soon. It is a new release. It's probably going to be a little while before it's available, but I think that's going to be a really, really popular plant. And so I answered the Brigadoon question. That was the last question. So send your photos to the HortTube at Gmail address. Next Sunday will be Subscriber Sunday and crazy amount of content this week. Thanks for watching, guys.